Hello and welcome back to New Eyes Open. Showing up here another day for myself and for you, and to encourage you to show up for yourself. That's the real reason that I'm here right now. And I was sitting here thinking, like, I have done a lot of showing up today. Been on several calls and just wasn't sure what to say, which I intentionally never am. Like, when sometimes as I'm walking out here to record these videos, something will come to me. Other times I really have no clue until I hit the record button, and that is part of the experience, right? Because, yeah, trusting ourselves. Trusting ourselves is a big part of this whole experiment. And not just trusting ourselves, but trusting in the divine essence within us, trusting in our connection to our higher self, to God, Creator, Source, and believing that if we have been called to show up for something, that we will be equipped for that task. And sometimes we won't know that we're equipped until the moment we show up. And I feel like this is what keeps a lot of us in this excuse me, stuck loop, right? Because we want to know, we want to be prepared. And I'm not saying that's not a good thing, but sometimes, for me at least in the past, I know that I haven't shown up because I wanted to know exactly what all 10 of the next steps were going to look like before I stepped out in faith and took that first step. And so showing up here, this is a big part of this showing up practice, is really trusting myself and trusting my connection to my Creator, and letting the message that is meant to flow through. And today I've been shown in many different ways that we are uniquely equipped for the task at hand. And even when it looks like on the outside, we talk about this a lot on this channel, like what success looks like out there might not actually be what success really is for you in this moment, in this phase of your life, this stage of your journey. Success might actually look like failing and then learning the lesson from that failure, from what the world deems as a failure. So taking that first step, showing up, not knowing whether or not you're equipped, and then just acting on faith is a big part of how we become equipped for what we're called to. And this is interesting. Today, a lot came through. If you follow me on Instagram, and if you've, listened to anything else that I talk about, you know that I follow the true sidereal, which is just another word for astronomy, like what's actually in the sky, astrology. So looking at what's in the sky and just using that as a guide for what archetypes may be influencing your day-to-day life. I am not a predictive, I'm not a predictive astrologer. I do feel like, yeah, that's a whole other topic. Anyways, we'll get into that some other time. But if you're following that, and you also follow the human design system, and really, I follow human design slightly, mostly because the gene keys that evolved from human design is the poetic, esoteric tool that speaks to my heart right now. And right now, gene key 11 is in its final day of the sun transiting through this particular gene key. or gate if you're following the human design system. I'm going to do a whole thing just in case you're not familiar with those systems. One day, I will actually plan a video, and it will be a video expounding on how these tools came into my life and why I actually use them now as part of my own personal development process and spiritual development. Like, individuation process is really what it's for, is just ways to guide my self-reflection journey. And so in that self-reflection process right now, we are looking at Gene Key 11. And Gene Key 11, the shadow is obscurity, and the highest level of the Gene Key is light. And it's all about this process of evolving from the shadow of obscurity, what can't be seen, to the ideal, and then into light, like, which is the highest ideal. And one of the phrases, I do not have my book in here, so I'm going completely off memory with this, you guys, so give me some grace. One of the phrases in the book that for this particular gene key that I really, really like is how it says, if we can just believe in the images that come to us through our imagination, then those images will come true in our life. And essentially this is about like your dreams, but it's not just these petty, materialistic dreams that we're taught to have. It's more like the dream that you were created for. Like, what's your real true dream? And that is what idealism is all about in this particular chapter. I know it can mean something different in other circles, but for the gene keys, idealism is the gift frequency of this 11th gene key. And it's talking about how, God has a purpose for us. Your creator has a purpose for you. And there are these higher visions and higher dreams that you have access to. And when you align with the highest ideal, the highest dream, then that will come true. And so part of what that statement, what that quote meant to me and made me realize and reflect on today is, I've talked on here about the pattern. Ever since 2006, I have felt called to either speak or write, get my words out there in front of people, and yet I've shied away from it. Each time because I didn't believe that A, I was equipped and ready, B, that what I had to say was worth putting out there, and C, I honestly didn't trust myself to show up consistently, which is part of why we're here right now. To prove to myself, and to just finally follow through on it, because I have realized when you believe in that dream that you have, you do take the steps forward for it. When you do not, you sit around and you stay stuck, and it becomes this downward spiral that I don't wish on anyone. And it's the images in my mind that for the last, several years and really 20 years that I have been circling around this showing up theme or not doing it, there's been an image of, like, I used to play basketball, and, we would have to pivot pass, and you'd have one foot planted because you couldn't pick up both feet to pivot, or then you're walking, right? Or traveling. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've played basketball, but you keep that one foot planted and you pivot around and you're looking. And that's kind of how it's felt, like being stuck, knowing that I was supposed to show up, speak words, write words, share words. And I knew I was supposed to do it, but I wasn't doing it. And so I just kept turning like, am I supposed to do it in this way? Maybe I'm supposed to do this before I can show up and share. Maybe I need to do this. But the whole time I'm never really moving forward. It feels like you're moving because you're spinning around, but you're not going anywhere. And you're never passing the ball either, so no one's winning. Like you know, if you're not sharing the message, somebody else can't grab it and say, "Oh yeah, oh, that's exactly what I needed to hear today. Now I have what I need to pass the ball along, and eventually we all win." But staying in one spot and pivoting around is how this feeling of stuckness has felt. And like I said, I don't wish it on anyone, except for the fact that if you stay that way long enough, eventually, I would hope you're going to get yourself out of it, which is why we're here, right? I finally got so sick and tired of staying stuck that I decided to do the thing, even if it was messy, even if I didn't have the words, already prepared, even if I was scared every time I hit the record button that I don't know what's going to show up. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know if I'm going to fumble over my words. I don't know if I'm going to talk around in so many circles that people aren't even going to be able to follow me. All those fears come up each time that I push record. However, it gets easier and easier to push the record button each time. So there in and of itself is a lesson. When you show up consistently, it gets easier. And eventually, I'm hoping it gets better too, for your sake and for my sake. And then the other metaphor, or just this image that I've had in my mind of this stuck feeling because I hadn't been doing the one thing I knew that I was called to do, beyond the other things in life. Like, obviously, I unschool my children. Like, we do a lot. But, and I help entrepreneurs with their business, and there is a lot that I am doing in life. This is this one thing that I knew I had been called to do, and I wasn't showing up for. So here we are. But the other thing it's felt like is being trapped in a cage, and you know that there's an easy way out, but you just can't find it. Like, there's a door, you're not even locked. You're trapped in a cage, but there's no lock, but you can't find the latch to open up the door and get out. And so you're like constantly looking all these places, like, and just to give you some context here, looking as in, maybe I need a different messaging strategy. Maybe I need somebody to teach me how to show up. Maybe I need to get better lighting or a better background. That'll make it, all of a sudden make it easier to show up. When no, really, what makes it easier to show up is just hit record, do the thing, type the blog, post it, say the words, speak them. Maybe you're not called to show up on a video like this, but maybe there's someone that you need to speak to, that you keep hearing you need to speak to. You need to say you're sorry, or you need to, tell them you love them, or whatever it is. You just need to speak the words. You just need to do the thing. And I am here to witness to you that it is a whole lot easier when you just set your mind to do the thing and follow through with it. Your heart feels a lot better. Things start flowing a lot better in life. Your joy comes back online. And yeah, I think that's the message for today. So however you're being called to show up in your life, this is your encouragement to do so for all of our sakes, but also for yours. Because when you start showing up for yourself, you trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, the sky's the limit. There's so many awesome things that you can do and that you are here to do. So just get out there and do them. Let's do it. All right. With that being said, thank you so much for joining me again. Thank you for listening to my rambling as I show up for myself. I encourage you, go out there, show up for yourself, do the thing you're called to do. And if this message blessed you, if you think that there's somebody else out there that might benefit from it, I covet your likes, your shares, your follows, all the YouTubey things. And yeah, that's it for today, guys. Until next time, I hope you're well.